All right, we'll try this again. I think I can actually do comments this time. There's actually stuff to do in here today. I think the last time I did this, everybody was eating. And now, as predicted, there's a lot of snake poop in here. So I got to work on that, especially since I will be gone for a few days. Trying out some other things with live streaming too, just to see if it works. Here's one thing I can't tell. So if anybody gets in here, tell me if the logo that you see is this in the left corner or the right corner for you? Because those are one of the challenging things about this format is that the preview sometimes is backwards to what is actually happening. Left. Okay, good. So that's actually it. So from what I can see on my end, it shows it the mirror view. So actually, that's going to be challenging because I'm not going to be able to read the comments that I want to do. I'm just realizing that now. So I'm going to have to find another way. I'm not a non-techie person in any way. Just astonished at some of this and the difficulty of okay, so what I'll have to do is I can just look at it in my OBS here. Yeah, on YouTube, what it does is it shows on my preview when I'm doing this, it shows it on the other side, so I can't actually look at it. So, yes, I did sell one of my FJs. I have another one that I recently destroyed in an accident, unfortunately. So I'm working on that. So I have saved a bunch of comments from recent things. So I will answer some questions if they're in the chat, but I think I'm going to be focusing on those other comments because last time I wasn't able to get them. Yeah, they're worth a lot if they drive. Is one of the challenges of the FJs that I have in particular is I tend to have a good time with them and kill them. So. We do have a visiting diamondback, and that's what you're hearing over there. If he continues to be like that this whole time, I might have to put him away. Unless you just want to hear rattling the whole time. All right, so time to find poop. Not the most fun part of this whole thing, but an essential part of it. Keep everybody clean. All right, there we go. This is a Panamint rattlesnake. And really good feeding response, as you can tell. He's already right at the glass, ready to go for it. Just get him out of here real fast and get that out of here. Here you go. Panamint. It's for the Las Vegas area. So something that you might see me do that you might see differently on other channels that are similar. Rattlesnakes don't need baths. They don't need to be sitting in water. It doesn't benefit them. Yeah, that sounds. And in fact, I think there could be some danger there potentially, because some animals, especially if you end up having others that come in from come and go from the wild, or situations where quarantine would be warranted, dipping everybody in the same bucket of water is a really good way to make sure everybody has every disease they can possibly get. So they go in a bucket. After everything's done, this bucket gets a little bit of bleach and gets cleaned out, and I have another bucket elsewhere. It works well in the meantime for this. But yeah, you might have noticed Arizona's pretty dry. So if I'm just keeping Arizona species, there is not any need for me to keep them overly hydrated. That's not what they do. Also on the hotline today, so I gotta keep checking my phone periodically. If you see me doing that, that's what I'm doing. So I think I'll clean an enclosure, add some substrate, and then check the comments. Answer one and then do the next one. Here's again. Animals are cool. They look a lot like speckled rattlesnakes. They were actually considered a subspecies of speckled rattlesnakes back when ours, Pyrus, was a subspecies. But they are very different, actually, in behavior and to some degree appearance. One down. Let me check a comment. Why is it I've only seen tiger rattlesnakes only in and around Paestua? Well, where else do you look for them? They're secretive animals, basically. Okay, here's the first comment. Let's see. All right. If one does find a rattlesnake in their yard, is it safe to shoo it out, or do you just call a professional? So I did actually pay attention to these comments, because last time when I was just collecting them, I noticed that I was just picking negative comments. So I tried to get some other ones in here that are just easier to explain while I'm doing different stuff. So, yeah, there's no one answer to this. If you have a rattlesnake in your yard and you feel competent and have the right tools to move it or shoo it away, then go for it. You know, a lot of times that's all it's going to take. Sometimes you can do that and it's going to retreat more into cover. So if you're on outside of your front door and there's this nice shaded area and it's a hot day and it's noon and you shoo the rattlesnake, it's not necessarily going to escape out into the painful heat and put itself in danger. So it very much depends. A lot of times it's a matter of waiting for the right situation. If you're not sure of what you think it can do, call a professional. And honestly, you could also call somebody like us, and we can even just advise. If somebody calls us and says, hey, I have a rattlesnake here. Here's what the situation is. I'm thinking about just kind of squirting it with a hose. You think it'll go away? We'll tell you what we think about it. So if you feel like you have enough information, go for it. If you live in an area where there are a lot of rattlesnakes, though, I would think that those are often pretty good skills to have. I mean, if I lived, especially in places where professional services aren't available. So actually one of the emails I need to get to today is there's a situation like this. Somebody that actually watches our YouTube channel messages from the website about they have snakes around their property. and want to know kind of where to relocate them off their own property. So I'm going to give some advice about that. So no, there's not really one answer there. I wish there were, but it depends on your comfort level. At my place, I just shoo them away. Actually, I just leave most of them, but if it's right next to the house, let me show you this guy. This is a Grand Canyon rattlesnake, cold as dirt. You'll notice it's not pink. A lot of Grand Canyon rattlesnakes are not pink. When people talk about the Grand Canyon pink rattlesnake, they're actually talking about either one of several different animals that it could be. Pink not being a requirement. It's kind of similar to when people talk about the Mojave green rattlesnake, where most of them aren't green, so it causes some confusion. Yeah, massive rodents. I think I talked about that last time. If we didn't have rattlesnakes, there would be. I know it's not perfect, Mark. I'm sorry, but this is what I got for now. Okay, I got to work. So there will be at some point some way that I can do all this at the same time. Using the technology available to me. Maybe somebody could be here doing it, but I'm trying to find ways to integrate. So I'm being mindful of that. Getting this thing working at all has been a feat. That's where I can actually see it and have some comments there at the same time. At some point, we'll just get Jeff to come up here and do this with me. But this is stuff I have to do every day. Okay, let's see if I can get another one. All right, that worked. Look at that. Okay. Trying to remember what this was in context too. Giving you a chance to read that. Okay, so this is, and if you left this comment, correct me if I'm wrong. We put a lot of photos up about snakes that are in context, snakes that are hiding in really particular places. And a lot of people don't see the snakes until they are right there. Sometimes there's multiple snakes. Okay? Thing is, a snake being there, this is where it gets complicated. The presence of a snake and somebody seeing it and having a perceived near-death experience, those are different things. The snake that's just sitting there and it's seen, even if there's one that's scared, it can be a scary experience. But in order for that to be a scary experience, it requires that the person's already scared. Because most of the time, the snake isn't actually doing anything that is scary. It's a thing that somebody is scared of, and that makes it so that it's a scary experience. Sometimes in those areas, there are multiple snakes. And actually pretty often coming up here into our estivation period of the year, it's very possible that there could be multiple snakes in an area. So, if you see one, and it's kind of interesting that the choice of words here of exactly what it was. One person or animal, no problem. It didn't feel like taking on through. I think I'm misinterpreting this. Yeah, so I'm going to back up a little bit. Sorry, I think I misinterpreted. I think I remember this one now. Yeah, snakes that are sitting there in one spot and they're not rattling, totally fine. That's totally normal stuff. Rattlesnakes don't really, from their perspective, they're trying to hide from you. So if they're sitting there and you or multiples even are around and it's continuing not to rattle, that is very much defensive behavior. That's what it's doing. It is being on defense, it is trying to avoid being killed by doing the thing that seems to be working at the time, and that is to be remaining hidden. But if lots of animals, lots of people, lots of things keep coming up to it, eventually it may not feel as secure and step that up to the next thing, and that might be rattled. So this could be an accurate read on something to where a snake might have, there's one thing moving around there that's been successful in avoiding it because of its camouflage, but then with lots of other things around, usually it's still going to stay there and be completely quiet. But that can change the way an animal behaves if there's lots of unpredictable stuff happening. I changed the angle of the camera slightly. That might help with that. Not be able to see what's going on. Another problem is I'm tall, so trying to get this thing so I can actually talk when I'm up close. Complicated. Might get a different stand for this thing. That could help too. Let's see. All right, so yeah, so those can be truthful experiences. One of the ways that expresses a lot of times when people are hiking, they'll say, well, the first person, it's the second or third person that's bitten. And that is kind of accurate because a lot of times if you're hiking in a group of people, one after another in a line, the first one or two people step over the top of a rattlesnake. Snake is like, okay, I can hang out here. But if it keeps happening, then the snake might start to rattle. So this is an Arizona black rattlesnake from the Surbat Mountains. This one is collected as part of a venom study. Some of you that follow that might be kind of, already know what I'm talking about. There was some talk of those animals being potentially a unique species. It's not panning out. There's always rumors of people working on that, but nothing's really happening. And if you're curious, the venom on both of the ones that we collected for that are, they both came back. Just Arizona black rattlesnake. So, yeah, we do go to Tucson. Quite a bit. Actually, we have a fully active line in Tucson. Occasionally, if David is out of town, I will go down to Tucson to cover for him. I think actually this year and last year, both, there were sections where several videos in a row covering that. Yeah. I tried something new. This is gross. I have a dead hamster here, a little baby one. To see if the twin spots would eat it, if you're curious in it. It can be difficult because I'm trying to get them to eat frozen thawed prey instead of live. I don't like to feed anything live if I can help it, but that is easier said than done for a lot of animals. So it means that some of them I do have to feed live, but I'm always trying to find ways to get them to eat frozen thawed stuff. And that does include trying different types of prey. So in that case, I'll leave the animal in there overnight. If they don't want it, then sometimes I just give it to somebody else. If it starts to stink in any way, or if it's leaking, or it's like it's a dead animal. So if it's gross in any way, just toss it out. No problem. What's the difference from a timber Mojave and eastern? I'm assuming eastern diamondback, venom-wise. A lot. That's not a question that I can easily answer or even summarize. I mean, they all have a lot of different characteristics to it. All of those animals have some neurotoxic element. I think that, and also for timbers and Mojaves, it depends on where they are too. So I would say, don't worry so much about the differences in the venom between those. If you're asking in a way of how it relates to potential danger to you, the potential effect of that, because it's like trying to figure out is a bonfire that is fueled by mesquite a worse one to jump into than one that is fueled by pine wood. It's kind of like that. They're both emergent. They're all emergency situations that are going to manifest in different ways. Okay. Yeah. So on that, I think 2 videos ago now, you're seeing Jeff messed up. He put in he left Marissa's name on when it's supposed to be for himself. So I want to assure everybody that has been dealt with. Jeff called me crying in the middle of the night about this. He told me that he messed up and that he might have put in the wrong name tag in there. So it was probably 2 a.m. He called me. He was completely devastated by it. So I told him I'll be there in about 45 minutes. So I was at his house in about 45 minutes, and then what I did is I got an iPad and I got the video and I put it on pause at the place where he had messed up really bad. And then I took his back of his head and I rubbed it in the video and yelled at him so that he would understand that he had done something really bad. And then after that, after he stopped crying and I finished punching him in the back of the head, we talked about it. And I think we're going to be okay. I don't think there's going to be a lot of other problems with Jeff's editing after that. It's little. It's a little guy. Let's see. Okay. This is a long one. I'll let everyone read that while I'm getting this up. This is a complicated one. Meanwhile, I'll show you this. This is an albino western diamondback rattlesnake. Get that poop out of here. And then I'll shrink that back down so you can see what we're doing after I get this water out of here. This guy is a big rat. It smells like hell. Okay, so the gist of that video is that I seen Grumpy a lot, basically, and that it's not going to be helpful to people that are trying to learn about snakes, and I shouldn't expect anybody to know anything about snakes. And I agree with a lot of that. Here's that western diamondback. It's an albino. This one was caught in Anthem, Arizona. It's a wild caught one. It was super skinny at the time that it was captured. It was essentially starving to death. It has since recovered. We've had it for a long time. Albino snakes can survive in the wild just fine in a lot of cases. They don't need to be collected if that is found, but this one was not doing well by any means. So, we'll get back to that comment here in a second after more away. So I agree with the sentiment of that. I think that, and I fully agree, nobody should know anything about rattlesnakes. Nobody needs to know this. This is not something that people that don't have an interest with snakes or being in the outdoors, it truly doesn't matter for most people. And there's no utility for most people in the world to know a whole lot about rattlesnakes. Just like, any other topic, coin collecting. Okay, I don't know anything about coin collecting. There's no repercussions to me not knowing anything about coin collecting. But what I wouldn't do, knowing that, is have real strong opinions about coin collecting and go out of my way to attack people that collect coins, maybe taking coins and throwing them into a river or something based on my thoughts and feelings and all that. With rattlesnakes, as well discussed on a lot of other stuff, a lot of other instances of our content, there's a lot more wrapped up into it. Yeah, they can be dangerous. There is a lot of cultural, ties to this that are wrapped up in a lot of that. So, to anybody that is not knowledgeable, the word is ignorant. That is the correct word for that. The problem with the word ignorant is that sometime in the, I think, early 2000s, that word went through some revival as an insult, when really it is a more of a technical term to just say that you don't know much about something. I'm ignorant to coin collecting. I'm ignorant to horseback riding. I'm ignorant to sailboats. It doesn't mean I'm an idiot. It means I'm ignorant to those things. So to people that just don't know much about snakes and therefore don't have a reasonable reaction to them, we're very friendly to that. I'm not upset with those people in any way. I mean, that's what we do. We spend a tremendous amount of time talking to people that are interested in staying safe, that are not interested in the natural history of rattlesnakes. They don't care about them at all. They just want to know how to stay safe around them. That is just fine with me. That's perfect. No anger there. But there's a difference between ignorance, between just not knowing something, and belligerence. And belligerent ignorance is no longer about knowledge. Belligerent ignorance is, it's where personality disorders and other shortcomings of personality and human interaction come to light. And rattlesnakes and other animals or wildlife are often a vehicle for those people to express themselves. There is a particular thing that happens to outside of rattlesnakes right now, outside of snakes, where we're kind of in that post-expert era, the post-information era, where how somebody might feel about something could never be changed by the actual facts, by things that can be proven, by individuals or research that states otherwise. Those things are now, I think we've all forgotten what most of us try to learn in the second grade of what an opinion is. So for people that are belligerently using misinformation to damage the efforts of groups like ourselves, of other people that want to learn, then yeah, I am grumpy about that. I don't have tolerance for that. And I don't think anybody should. I don't think you should. I think that we should all be angry at people that will intentionally be misinformed and intentionally try to misinform others for their own gain. I think that is something we should all be mad about. So if you see me being grumpy about something, that's what it is. And a thing that Jeff and I talked about when we were first getting into this is that you're not watching a show. You're watching us record what we have done every day for 10 years before we ever decided to put this on YouTube, right? So that is part of it. This is not, there are good and bad emotions about this. So when I'm talking with people and some guy comes on and starts talking about that, the animal that I just shown, the way we rescued it and did a bunch of stuff. If he comes on here just to talk about how it'd be better off as a wallet and he would rather run over it, that's not something anybody should be cool with. And I'm kind of, I don't think that anybody that works in this realm should be apologetically asking those people to have reason, because it's not about knowledge, it's about their personality. So totally agree with you on part of that, but there's that nuance. And, we're trying to build a following here. We're trying to build something that is real. And that does mean that people that are damaging to that, we don't have to be cool to them. We're not interested in it. No one else should be either. Yeah, so there's definitely a difference between people that are just scared of snakes. That is a legitimate thing. There's no harm in that. Nobody should be upset with that, with anybody for being scared of snakes. It is a thing. Fear of snakes is a thing. In fact, I would say the other thing, if there is anything to get, get grumpy about when it comes to people being fearful of snakes, it would be people that are kind of more on our side of things that pretend that fear of snakes is purely a construct of not knowing things. I think that's part of the reason that it is such a slow, long process to teach any, get rid of fear in this, is because there's this belief that someone's scared of snakes. They've been scared of their entire life. Their mom is scared of snakes. Their dad's scared of snakes. It is a cultural thing that they're scared of snakes. That all you got to do is give them some, hey, did you know these interesting facts about snakes? Of course, that's not going to fix anything. It doesn't solve it. So I think that there are people that are, that are come from a place of knowledge that belligerently act on that misinformation or that level of human ignorance, I guess. So it's a complicated thing. There's no one-size-fits-all answer to it. But I would say that people that, it is a natural and I think often a healthy thing to work within the nuance of the actual situation rather than, we're very nice. But to somebody that's not nice to us, not going to be nice back. That's it. So here's another thing. These are tongs. I use tongs on a snake in my snake room. That's a big no-no a lot of the times because I think there's a belief that tongs are always used incorrectly. Problem is, this is a big diamondback, and I'm not holding her up for the camera because she is kind of difficult. She strikes a lot. She moves very quickly. She is a snake that will readily injure herself to get away. So we get her out into the bucket the best, the most efficient way possible. And in this case, it is tongs. Again, it's another example where idealism can actually injure snakes. This snake, if I were to hook it out, sometimes I can do it, sometimes I can't. When I open it up and see how she is, if she is not completely calm at that time, if I try to take her out using hooks, she's going to flop on the ground. It's not going to be exact. She could bite herself. She could injure herself. So we just opt for using tongs to get her out there as quickly and efficiently as we can for her safety. Doesn't hurt. And how do we know it hasn't hurt her? I've had her for, 15 years or so. And she's not injured in any way ever, so it works. Definitely makes me mad when people kill banded water snakes because they think they're cottonmouths. So hear me out on this one, okay? Getting mad would not be a useful reaction in that, in my opinion. I think the reason for that, if they are, try to evaluate what their intent is, okay? That's one of the ways that we can kind of tell the difference. If somebody kills a banded water snake because they honestly believe, first, that it is a cottonmouth, and honestly believe that if they don't do that, then their family could get killed. If they honestly believe both those things, you cannot fault that person for that. You can try to correct that, but you can't fault that person. So it can make you mad, but that expressing to them in that way is not going to help them to do that. Okay, so that's one of the tricky things about this. You have to be able to kind of read that intention, because that intention is everything. That intention is going to tell you whether or not that person is going to even hear what you have to say. So it depends on how you come at them. It's different though. This is a good example of what I was just talking about. If somebody knows that banded water snakes are not cottonmouths, if they know that those things aren't going to hurt their family, but they still kill them just so they can get a rise out of you, be mad at that. Those are different things. And that's what I'm saying is that I think our side of things has failed pretty, pretty big way to be able to respond to those things. We tend to apologetically ask for permission to educate people from the back of the room, where if somebody's outright doing something stupid like that, it needs to get shut down. If we were firearms enthusiasts and we were constantly trolled by people that were holding guns to their own head, it would be a misjudgment to not address that in some way. And that's what we tend to do. What do I think about free handling snakes? Free handling, I'm assuming you mean free handling venomous snakes. Oh, hang on, there's some poop in there. I gotta get that. Actually, that comment I just said, that could actually sum up my thoughts on free handling. It's all right. It's out of here, put the snake away. And then we'll talk about free handling rattlesnakes, and then I will check another comment. Yeah, she doesn't mess around. Okay. So free handling rattlesnakes, this is not something that I'm going to be making a mission of ours or anything. People are going to do what they're going to do. I think it's unfortunate. I think it's incredibly stupid. I think it's a good way to get clicks and get attention to the detriment of the animals. And what I mean by that is, if somebody is trying to, honestly, I think there's a lot of channels that do this, or people out there that are, they may say that they're trying to educate people about the reality of snakes. But if their entire being and all of their content is pushing the boundary and working on the edge of that, the idea that these are deadly, dangerous animals, and that they're taking risks, they're doing stunts essentially to exploit that, they're doing the opposite. They're just further solidifying the idea in culture that these are deadly, dangerous animals by doing stupid things with them. So it might be shocking and interesting to a lot of people. To anybody that actually works with venomous snakes and sees somebody doing that, it looks like a little baby playing with toys. It looks like a little baby that's like, their mom or dad didn't give them enough attention, and they need more. So they're gonna do incredibly stupid things on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. So that's what it looks like to me. I do know that laws change because of those things. I'm not going to say more about that, but I do know some things. So, okay, let me look for another comment. Okay, so this is one. This is in response to somebody that's just asking. I think Marissa just caught a rattlesnake, and they're wondering what she does with the snake after that if we milk it for venom. So no, all the snakes that we get are usually released right away. That's the best thing that we possibly can do. That's the best chance that the animal has to survive. That's what we're there to do, is help the animal survive and help the people as well. The venom aspect of it, there's really no reason to be milking them for venom. Venom, for anti-venom production, for pharmaceutical use, it is collected in a laboratory setting in a very controlled way. Going out to the wild and collecting venom, other than for some scientific purposes, which we do work on with people, really is not helpful. There was a show on, I think it was the Discovery Channel or Animal Planet several years ago, called Venom Hunters, I think it was. They actually called us about that to see if we wanted to take part in it back then. And I said no, because that is not actually a job. But if you keep calling around, you're going to find some people that have, narcissism problems maybe, and will lie to you and tell you it's a job. And that's what they did. So they made this whole show called Venom Hunters, where people run around and get the liquid gold. It's completely fabricated. That's not how it works at all. So, but it created this larger thing in culture that there's now a belief that venom has a whole bunch of, that it has a bunch of value to it. So where that it becomes dangerous to snakes and people is that not as much now as there was when this show was actually airing, but we would get calls from people that like, hey, I just found a diamondback. We collected it. We want to sell it to you for $10,000 for its venom. Like, well, put it back. Don't do that. We're not going to buy it. That's illegal. Don't need it. Not useful, and you've been lied to. Yeah, television fun, we'll say, but no, we don't milk them. You get another one, and I'll check out comments again. Can't you guys wait until morning to drop the snakes off and save us going to the desert at night? That's a good question. I'm going to look for some more proof while I think about that one. Some other guys haven't pooped yet. There's other ones that they have, but I don't see the snake, and I'm not going to go digging through here to find it to just remove some poop. It's not going to hurt them. So when I see the snake, I will do it. Good dinner. That actually might be it for today. That's fine. So the reason we don't wait until morning, we don't need to. It doesn't actually hurt us to go walking around at night. Actually, that's a thing that we do a lot of. More than you would ever know is that we hike at night to go look for snakes. That's one of the best times to go find them. And a lot of times a year, it's the best times to observe them in their natural environment. Some animals and some times of year, that's really the only time that you can find them is in the middle of the night. So for us to be walking around after dark, just checking, I'm on the hotline. Isn't a big deal at all. What would be a big deal would be more potentially dangerous to the animal, less likely for long-term success. All that would be to take the animal all the way home, house it somewhere, and then take it back and try to do that. So it's just part of the skills that you need to have is walking around at night and know how to do that safely, know how to do that without you'll be able to find your way back to the car. I do know, just from knowing people that are outside of this whole thing, the ability to use maps and other means of navigation when you can't see everything comes harder to some than others, but for all of us it's fine. So that's basically it. There's no need for us to go do it. It actually makes it potentially worse. So let me read some of these and catch up. Wow, Gail, I'm reading your comment about 300 rattlesnakes. Where do you put them? Wondering, do you keep them there, or you just kind of move them little ways? Sunfish, so if somebody does, it happens every day to me, and it's a hard thing, but it's something that's essential to kind of figure out a way to compartmentalize those things. Is that I'll get every day several. Somebody will send me a picture of a gopher snake or something, and it's been just hacked up. It's just blood and guts. And I say, "What is this? I'm worried about my dog." I might not feel happy about that. I might feel anger about that, but I need to stuff it in and look at what's actually happening here. Here's a person doesn't know what this is, honestly thinks that this could hurt their dog, honestly did a thing that they think is going to help. They're not. You a lot of times you can tell, because I think that there are some people that are so belligerent and broken that even if they knew that it's going to, we rescue snakes, right? So who's going to send us a picture of a hacked up snake with that awareness? Really only people that lack that layer of information entirely. So this isn't, that would be an honest person making honest mistakes. So yeah, it is very much a practice of getting that feeling and stuffing it down so you can do the work. And that work is to approach those situations in the most productive ways possible. It can still make you feel mad, but then you have to be cautious of that, because when this happens every day, that can become damaging to you in the long run. And if you're looking at just longevity of things, you know, if this job becomes something that makes you mentally unhealthy, then you can't do it as long, and then your effectiveness is diminished. And if you are actually making any changes, then you're cutting that short. So there's a lot of reasons to try to really examine those feelings and try to find the right places for how to put it and where to put it. Do we get calls and tend to find snakes that are not local to our ecosystem? Yeah, actually. So I'm actually trying to talk to somebody right now on Facebook. This is not a snake, but it is somebody that found a turtle that's a pond slider that showed up on their patio, and they're wondering what to do with it. And there's comments of like, take it out to the desert or let it go into the river. I'm like, no, that's an invasive animal, and it's not good, because that animal needs to be placed somewhere or it needs to be destroyed. The latter of those are not the options that we want, but we can't have invasive animals destroying the environment. That is different than non-native animals. And for the ones that are, I think, maybe more in line with what you were asking, if you look on our website on the identification section, you're going to see that there's a couple of, well, there's one animal on there that I really hated putting on there. It's a ball python, and it has a home on the Arizona snake identification page. If we are looking at that information of trying to identify a snake from the perspective of a snake that somebody could encounter in Arizona. And if you were to list it that way, people run into ball pythons more than they run into a lot of other snakes that are native to here, especially in the Phoenix area. So we put it on there. We catch more ball pythons at people's homes than we get patch-nosed snakes. Patch-nosed snakes are incredibly common out there. But if you're counting them as far as like people that don't know anything about snakes, needing to look something up to see what it is, ball pythons are up there on the list above a lot of things. So yeah, we do get those. Usually, low-grade pet trade things. Let's see. Really appreciated the top 50 snake videos showing up. No matter how hard you tried, 50. Oh yeah, this is the video where I approached 50 rattlesnakes in succession to see if I can get any of them to chase me. They didn't. That video it serves another purpose for me too, because sometimes people will they don't understand how many rattlesnakes that we see. So they'll try to use, well, I grew up on a ranch. We would see up to 10 rattlesnakes in a year. Therefore, you don't know what you're talking about because you must be from the city and you see only a handful. Like, nope, here's a video where there's 50 of them. This was like in a couple of weeks, and this wasn't even all of them. These are just the ones that didn't rattle at me, that were not at a house or any of that too. So in that couple of weeks, there were, maybe 200 or 250 rattlesnakes. So it's useful in that way too. But I think we're going to redo that video with another 50 rattlesnakes. Maybe we'll make it 100. I don't know. Maybe we'll just, every time we do 10, we'll put out a video or something. I think it's useful. The reason why we chose 50, that I chose 50 on that, is not because I expect anybody to sit there and watch that video for a half hour. 50 to me was a ridiculous number. I think if I did 10, somebody would say, yeah, but if you tried 12, then one of them's going to chase you, or 20 or something. But for some reason, 50 just seemed to kind of arbitrarily hit that mark of that just has a lot of rattlesnakes. That says this is conclusive. If we would have done it with 100 or 500, we could totally do that. But no one's going to sit there and watch through a 2.5 hour long video of the same. But having them actually watch it, I think, is not the point. It's just to blow it out of the water and say, look, you're saying that you grew up on a ranch and most of the rattlesnakes, or even 1 in 100 of them, chased you, and you've seen 50 in your life. Well, we can put that to bed by this. So yeah, the numbers are important. I'm missing something. Chris is saying something about Emma not hiking during the hot summer days. and this and that. So if you want, Chris, if you want to expand, I can comment on that. Yeah, Pam, Panamint is not a breath thing. It's just the name. It's from the Panamint Valley in Nevada, I think. So anyway, that's it. It was a short one. I think I'm gonna try to get better at this, so it's not such a laborious thing. I'm gonna try to make it so that the format works better, so that there's not. Actually, you know, I might have some more. Let me see. I didn't even think about that. I have more comments. I just started answering stuff. I ran out of poop to clean, so I decided I was done with comments. Let me just get these out of the way then, and then I can delete them and move on to other ones. The speckled rattlesnakes seem like they'd be difficult to relocate. You find areas where they blend in with the scenery. It's harder to find areas to release them because their pattern can contrast with the land. Actually, speckled rattlesnakes are easier to release for those same reasons. So speckled rattlesnakes have very particular specialized lifestyles and habitat. And during much of the year, they're very predictable in those things. So they're invisible out there in the desert, but knowing exactly how to find them is the key to being able to relocate them successfully. And if you know how to do that, you know that they're very predictable animals in that way. It does mean that if somebody doesn't understand those things or have a good knowledge set to find those animals, then releasing them is going to be incredibly dangerous to those animals. Without being negative about things, and I've brought this up, but I will be bringing it up once I can find kind of a more constructive way to approach it. There are more and more people that are, I think we're probably influencing this. Probably it's a negative thing in my view. I think there's a lot more people that are trying to do relocation of snakes now that probably should not be. I appreciate the will of it, but I have seen where people get a speckled rattlesnake and think it's something else and just go release it out in the desert, and it's going to die. In those cases, it's not that we don't appreciate them trying to relocate it. It's just it needs more time, a couple more books in there to be able to do it. So short answer: speckled rattlesnakes are actually easier than others for that reason. If I get a speckled rattlesnake and it's June, I know right where to put it. No problem. I never understood why snakes don't strike the stick. She's talking about tongs. We get this comment a lot. If you were to pick up the snake with your hand, it would immediately strike and bite you. So we get that comment a lot. One of the reasons why people will give for that they'll assume is that the tongs don't have any heat. But rattlesnakes respond very well to motion. They strike at things and eat things that are not hot, like lizards. So that's not really it. Snakes, if I am grabbing it with these tongs and I'm doing it properly is not death grip. It's not holding it as tight as you can by the head, which is what people do. If we grab it around the middle carefully with just the right amount of force, it doesn't hurt it. So it's not going to strike it. It's focused on us. We're the thing that's holding it. We're looking at it. You can see our face. And we're using this as an extension of us. It doesn't need to bite that. So if we use these tools properly, I think there's a lot of hate for tongs. Most of it is legitimate because people don't know how to use the tool right. But when used properly, they're a great and essential tool for this kind of work. And if you watch our videos, just by things like this comment, you also know how often a snake is sleeping and we can pick it up with these tools and put it in the bucket and it's still like, what's happening? That's the desired effect. So the short answer, it's not biting the stick because we're not hurting it with the stick. All right, that is true of the last comment. Okay, well, that's it for today. Thanks, everybody. I'll see if I can come up with some other ways to do this a little faster, but I'm going to try to, this was an hour. I'm going to try to keep them to an hour or less. The faster I can do them, the easier I can get into it and make this efficient, the more often I can do it. I have to come and do this every day. It's just a matter of whether or not I have my laptop with me and feel like doing this. So I'm going to try to move towards the latter. It would be awesome if someday I could get to where I just do this every day with this, but not quite there yet. But thanks, everybody. See you later.